Hey, what up, food friends? Hope you're all doing amazing out there today, and I hope you're all trying to avoid those ultra processed foods. To help you all out, today I'm going to do a recipe and a technique video. We're going to braise a chuck roast. We're going to take a really cheap cut of meat and we're going to turn it into a tender, delicious meal. So let's get going. First, like always, we're going to prep everything up. I've got 3 cloves of garlic that I'm going to crush. I'm not even chopping them up. A small onion, 2 carrots, and about 2 stalks of celery with all the leaves included. And we're just going to cut all of this up into like 1 inch, 1.5 inch pieces. No special cutting or techniques for this at all. Now, for our chuck roast, we're just going to cut this up into large pieces like 2 to 3 inches across. At the same time, we're going to remove any extra large pieces of fat. Since chuck roast is already really fatty, we don't need all this extra. Chuck roast comes from the shoulder of the cow. It's used quite a bit moving around, so it's a tougher cut, but it's very flavorful. And this is why we're going to braise this. We're going to cook this covered for a long time at a slow heat to allow it all to break down and become fork tender. And now we're going to season our meat. We're going to add about 2 teaspoons of salt, a tablespoon of pepper, lots and lots of pepper. Beef loves it. And then about 2 teaspoons of paprika. The rest of our herbs and seasonings we're going to add to the vegetables later. Now we're going to wait about 15 or 20 minutes and we're going to start to brown our meat. I've got my burner set to the lower end of high heat on my stove. It goes to 10. I've got it set at about 7. And we're going to add 1 to 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I recommend about 2, and we're going to add a little more later. Once this gets hot, we can start putting in our meat, and we want to make sure that we don't overcrowd the pan. We want this to brown, not turn gray. If you put in too much at once, it'll steam and boil, and you'll never get that brown sear. We're going to keep turning these every couple of minutes until we get a nice crust on our meat. It's probably going to take 15-20 minutes altogether. This part can be skipped, but I get asked why my braised beef tastes better and tastes so good, and the browning and the searing is a large part of this. We're going to do this all in 2 batches so we don't overcrowd. It takes some time, but it's totally worth the extra effort. Now that all our meat is seared, we've got this good crust. We want to add in our vegetables and herbs. And today I'm using totally dried herbs. I'm 100% out of fresh stuff from Thanksgiving the other day. So this is proof that you don't have to have a fridge full of fresh herbs all the time. I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons of dried parsley, 1 tablespoon of thyme, and a tablespoon of oregano. We're going to stir this all up, scrape the bottom of the pot, and you may need to add another tablespoon or 2 of olive oil at this point. I did, my pan was really drying out. Once we've got these vegetables sweated for a minute or 2, we're going to add in our beef stock. Make sure to scrape the bottom. This is the deglazing process, so we want to get all that fondant flavor off the bottom of our pot. I'm also going to add in a little extra water. I used about 2 cups, and then we're going to get this back up to heat to a slow boil or simmer. And then we're going to add our meat back. We want to get it up to temperature first, and then we're going to get all that meat in there and make sure it's covered with liquid. Make sure to add all those drippings too. Don't want to lose those. Once it's simmering again, we're going to cover this and we're going to put it in the middle of our oven for 3 to 3.5 hours. It's really going to depend on the cut of the meat, the pot you're using in your oven, but 3 to 3.5 hours is usually a general rule. After our 3.5 hours, we can take this out of the oven. You can see that some of the liquid has evaporated and the meat should be fork tender at this point. We're going to remove the meat from our braising liquid, being gentle and not to crush it or let it fall apart. We want this in large pieces for this pot roast, but if you don't care, like you're making tacos or something, you can just shred this. I do it all the time. I'll get the meat to this point and then just pull it all apart with a couple of forks. It makes great burritos, tacos, whatever you need. But for today, I'm just doing a pot roast with like mashed potatoes, so I'm just going to leave it whole. Now we're going to want to strain all of our braising liquid to make a gravy. I'm just going to pass this all through a sieve into a smaller pot. I'm going to start by ladling. Once I'm sure I've got enough room and we're towards the end, I'm just going to pour all the remaining liquid right through. We're going to press this down gently to squeeze out the last of the liquid, and now we can turn this into gravy. Now we've got our braising liquid all strained, and we're going to get it simmering on a medium heat. And to thicken this up, I'm going to use about 2.5 tablespoons of potato starch mixed into a cup of water. You can see it immediately thicken up when I add this into a really, really nice gravy that's just going to coat everything. You can use cornstarch, you can use a flour and butter roux, whatever you're more comfortable with. I'm just a huge fan of potato starch and water for thickening gravies and soups. I just like the taste. I like the way it looks. Now it's time to eat. I've got mashed potatoes I made for Thanksgiving. You can use your favorite recipe, or I've even got a recipe up online in my shepherd's pie video. I'll have it linked in the description. The mashed potatoes start at about 3 minutes, 45 seconds in, but you can see how fork tender this is after braising on a low and slow in the oven. It's just fall apart good. You don't even have to chew. I hope you all enjoyed this recipe and technique video. Here's some other recipes I know you're going to love. I hope you can incorporate braising into your cooking techniques to help avoid those ultra-processed foods in the future. Please, please like, comment, and subscribe on this video. It really helps get these recipes and my message out there. I hope you all do amazing. Keep eating healthy. Peace, everyone.